Hello and welcome to the oddschecker Cheltenham Festival Preview 2021, sponsored by Betfair. This is the Friday preview, so the Gold Cup Day preview, and I'm your host, George Elek, and I'm joined by three expert guests in the form of Andy Holding, Tony Calvin, and Barry Orr from Betfair. Great to have you all here. Andy, of course, oddschecker's tipster. Tony, who does tipping and all sorts of other things for Betfair and others, and of course, Betfair Barry from Betfair. And on the Tuesday preview, we've already recorded a Tuesday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday preview. And at the beginning of the Tuesday preview, we talk about the weather and what we're expecting, anticipating the ground is going to be. We kind of came down on good to soft being likely on the Tuesday. Come Friday, we're not obviously entirely sure where we'll be, but before we get into the racing, and we're going to be starting with a Triumph in a second, just going to point you in the direction of the oddschecker app, the very best place for best prices, best bookie offers, place terms, free bets, and the very best tipsters, including Andy himself, whose tips during Cheltenham and throughout the year will be delivered straight to the app. Onto the Triumph then. And we've got two who cannot be split at the top of the market in Zanahiyr and Tritonic, both 9-4. Quixelos 11-2, Adagio 10-1, Horton Couleur, an interesting runner for Willie Mullins at 16-1, Dufflecoat 16-1, 20-1 Bar. And Barry, I'll come to you first just to give us the the angle. Whilst the bookies might not be able to split the top two, there's a bit of a difference in terms of the exchange prices.
Yeah, not a massive one, mine. Zanahiyr, your favourite at 3.25, which is 9-4, a little under 3-1. Tritonic, 6.6 Quilixios, and it's 10 Bar, Adagio 10, same as the sportsbook. Yeah, I think it's between the top three in the market, and my preference is for the outsider of the three is Quilixios. Lot to like about him, the way he's gone about his business so far in Ireland, especially in the Grade 1 last day where he picked up St. Sam very easily indeed. I suppose a lot of people, some people were disappointed that he just didn't sprint clear after jumping the last, that he looked like he was making heavy weather of it. But that was off the back of a 99-day break. And I'm sure he'll come on significantly for that. He's a horse that, he's got a really, really bright future. You can't really pick holes in Zanahiyr either. His one-time stable companion, Tritonic, obviously has come to the fore in recent days, haven't been as big as 7-1 after Ascot, into 9-4 favourite, joint favourite with Zanahiyr in the sportsbook now. But Quilixios for me in the Triumph Hurdle.
Quilixios for you, and it is these top three in the market, and Quilixios the outsider of the three. Andy, do your speed figures suggest that the market has this right as it stands?
Probably a little bit overestimating Tritonic based on pure time figures. I must admit, I made a real balls up of this race this year. It's a race, probably one of my favourite races of the meet. I'd love to win it as an owner. I had a horse good enough to run in it a few years back, and he finished fifth. I just like watching the juveniles, and the time figures usually work out. When Zanahiyr won in Fairy House before the new year, he clocked the kind of time that got me really, really excited. I think everyone's done the work on that. We've all seen the split screen stuff, and we know how quick he was compared to Honeysuckle and all that. So that work's done. At the time, he was around about 8-1, and I scoffed at that, thinking, well, yeah, I can let that ride. And then, of course, he collapsed in the market. He went to sort of 5s, 4s, and now he's looking down the barrel of 5-2. The same applies to Tritonic. I do a blog for my own website, and I suggested that 14-1 after he won at Ascot was too big, and that lo and behold, he's won the Adonis, and now he's 5-2. So I've missed 8-1 about a 5-2 shot. 14's about a 5-2 shot. So yeah, I've done really well on this race, a race I love. So I should be in a fantastic position. I'm not. So as putting my punting hat on now, regardless of how good I think Zanahiyr is, and how much potential Tritonic has got, I'd have to say the bet at the moment, I agree with Barry, is very much Quilixios. Now, Zanahiyr is obviously, as I've talked about, posted the very fastest time, courtesy of his Fairy House win. But up popped Quilixios the other day, and he ran a sensationally good time himself in a smaller field on the day where he finished ahead of Appreciate It if you're doing like-for-like split sectionals on the final circuit of the Dublin track. Whether he was quite 100% fit for that day, I don't know. Obviously, he's gone now to Henry de Bromhead. He would have still been in the Gordon Elliott stable had everything gone swimmingly in that department. It would have been interesting knowing what Gordon would have felt, knowing which one was better than the other. But either way, at 11-2, he looks the absolute archetypal, no frills, no nonsense each way bet at that price. It's hard to see him, if he runs his race, and there's no reason to think he wouldn't be suited to Cheltenham or that stamina-based new course, why he can't be bang there at the finish. So I've got a huge amount of time for both the two I've mentioned at the front of the market, particularly Zanahiyr. I think he's a very, very good horse. But if there is one horse to beat him, it might well be Calixios. So I would say he's also a horse that you can put into some each way multiples at this stage.
Calixios 11-2 with Betfair Sportsbook paying 3 places as it stands, which looks a decent price given, as Barry says, the exchange market has 6 to back and 6.8 to lay. Tony, coming to you, we've got 2 ticks in the Calixios box at the moment. Are you going to give it a third?
It'd be the one I would back at the moment for sure. You've got the substance is Zanahiyr, I think. I think the style arguably is Tritonic after that Kempton win last time. That might be a bit too harsh on him because I think it was a really good performance. We know how good he was on the flat. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the prices and you look at the depth of the field, I mean, you are instantly drawn to Calixios at 11-2. The non-runner money back angle, if something happens at the last minute, is an extra insurance. And as we've said, that 11-2 is basically the exchange win only price. But when you look at the shape of the race, you are just looking at very, very little. I think we know what Adagio is, and I think we'd all be quite surprised if Adagio's good enough to win this for all his 10-1 poke. I suppose the one that muddies the waters a little bit is the Willie Mullins horse, Houton Couleur. When I looked at this race early in the late last week, I hadn't even heard of this horse before, and no wonder why, because he's only had the one start winning in France. Now, obviously, Joe Donnelly must have paid a king's ransom for French Seal, and he hasn't made the race. So whether they've rushed this one in on the back of it, we shall see, because obviously Joe Donnelly owns Houton Couleur as well, but he'd have to be pretty damn good to actually get anywhere near the front three after what they've shown. So yeah. Cut a long story short, I would agree with Calixios is, given I think the race is not got a lot of depth at all outside of the top 3 or 4. I think Calixios 11-2 is each way is definitely the way to go at the moment.
Calixios each way getting unilateral approval across the 3 expert guests here each way at 11-2. Interesting to note, Tony, you mentioned there Houton Couleur. There's money. Pennies, just a couple of quid, but money queuing up to back Houton Couleur at 19.5, 20 on the exchange, which is significant, you'd think, given that we haven't actually seen Houton Couleur running for Willie Mullins, and equally as significant, I guess, that he'll be coming to the Triumph first up anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how that one is in the market. You'd think we'll get a better idea on the day there. On to the second race of the day, the County Hurdle, and just one horse, a single figure price, and third time lucky, which is 9-1. The Shunter 10-1, Ganapati and Blue Lord also 10-1, Eclair de Beaufort 12-1, alongside Soaring Glory and a few others in there that may not take up their entries. Andy, I'll come to you here first. And pretty open race as it stands at the moment.
It is, yeah. I think a lot depends on which race the Shunter goes in, because he's won the Moor Battle recently. He won the Great Wood, so he's proven over the track. And I think they're tossing up between this race and maybe the Grand Annual. I think that's reading between the lines that the likely 2 of the 5 races he's left in. I'd be looking to get with him because he's a very, very strong stayer at the trip. To win a Great Wood, and apparently he wasn't quite 100% when he did win the Great Wood, is a massive feather in his cap. And I think as well to win round Kelso as well, a real speed-based track, that showed him in a totally different light. And he's up for 100 grand bonus as well, so they want to make the right decision, and it is a difficult decision to choose between the 2. But if he was to run in this, I'd have a serious look at him, and I'd also have a serious look as well at 50 Ball, another horse I mentioned early on, who's entered still to run in the Supreme. But if he was to come here, He represents the Betfair Hurdle form, which I think is very strong form. And as I said already previously, he also got. He was given a hell of a lot to do at Newbury that day. He came from a long, long way back to finish a close at third. He travelled through the race really nicely. I like that about him. He got there very easily, only for that sort of energy expending move to pay. He paid for that late on. So yeah, those are the two I'd be looking at this very early stage. But it's a long way off. A lot can happen. There's going to be lots of non-runners. I mean, there's 70, 80 odd declared, and horses could run here, there, and everywhere. So until we see the proper field size and what we're dealing with, and what we're dealing with ground, it's very hard to be dogmatic. But those are the sort of early stage horses I'm looking at.
Yeah, I should mention we are recording this just after 1 o'clock on Thursday, the 11th. So still early stages for the Friday racing. And Tony, any others to add to the shortlist?
Yeah, I backed Eclair de Beaufort. I think he's really well handicapped. He's got an option of the Grand Daniel, who he finished second in last year. But given his hurdles, Mark, I think they'll be mad not to come here. He's £14 lower over hurdles. Obviously, like I said, he's got the festival form from last year. A very promising 6 at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I just think he looks a very well handicapped horse. Now, this race could be blown apart if a lot of the horses, they're in the Supreme at the 5-day stage, like the Third Time Lucky, 50 Ball. There's a whole host of them that could come here. But and they would obviously have to be greatly respected given their relatively lightly raced profiles. But on what we've seen so far, I think Eclair de Beaufort is a very, very solid each way chances. I think the 16s and 14s has gone. I think there might be a bit of 14s knocking around somewhere, but I think the 12s is still very acceptable from an each way perspective about that. So yeah, that's the one I've played in the race so far.
Yeah, 12 to 1 across the board pretty much on the oddschecker grids. A few firms paying 5 places, including the Betfair Sportsbook. Barry, anything to add in this second race on Friday?
Yeah, I fancy one in this, and I just hope he goes here. Like the lads have said, there's horses with entries here, multiple entries, and in the Supreme as well. And the one I like has an entry in the Supreme. He's rated 135 at the moment. I hope they don't go the Supreme route with him, because I think he's thrown in here. Guard Your Dreams. Tony was saying he thought he rated the Betfair Hurdle form, which I do as well. If you look at this horse in the Betfair Hurdle, I don't know what sort of ride he got, because the horses were jumping to second last and he was still over at the train station in Newbury. It was unbelievable, the ride that he got. And he's staying on better than anything to finish 6th. Even jumping the last, you'd think he couldn't be in the first 6, because Betfair were playing 6 places to each way punters in the Betfair Hurdle. And he got up to finish 6th unbelievably. Off 135 in this, if he takes his chance in the County Hurl, I think he's a big player. He's currently a 16 to 1 chance. I've had a nibble at him at 40 and 33 down on the exchange, just taking a chance that he's going to go here, because Twiston Davis has form from last year. Sir Valentine got into this race after finishing 4th in the Betfair Hurl, and he chose to run him in the County Hurl off the back of that race in the Betfair Hurl, and he got in off 134. So I'm hoping 135 will get him in first of all, and that they opt to go down the County Hurl route with Guard Your Dreams, because I think he's going to be a big player.
Yeah, Guard Your Dreams, a little bit of 20s about on the grids as well. So one interesting angle there from Barry. Onto the Albert Bartlett, the third race of the day, and the third and the longest of the novice hurdles. And Statler is the 5 to 1 favourite ahead of Fakira at 7 to 1. Barbados Bucks 8 to 1. Tory Graph 8 to 1. Alaphilippe 10 to 1. Horse I spoke to Fergal O'Brien about, who, he was glowing in terms of, I think the quote was, if he's there, if he's right there, bang. At the bottom of the hill, there's no one else that you'd want to be on. Farouk Dalain is 16 to 1. Admiral 16 to 1. 3 under through 5, 16 to 1. 20 to 1 Bar. And Andy, as you well know, you are my go-to man when it comes to novice hurdles. So, normally we see horses who've had quite a tough season, I guess. Rarely you see a lightly raced horse come and do well here. Any of these looking like bets to you at the current prices?
Well, the sort of 10-year trends or 20-year trends, if you want to go further back than that, suggest that you do need a horse with a little bit of experience and having running graded races, and at least he's proven over 2 mile 6, 2 7, 3 miles if preferable. The one who fits all that criteria is Fakira. I've watched this fella right from the start of the season, and he's always looked as though he'll improve for a test of stamina. He just got done by Asphodel Bob a couple of runs ago, and I liked his run beyond Galopol de Mesnil, a horse I quite like for the Ballymore. I think that was probably the best staying novices race run in Ireland so far this season, and I like the way he finished off his race. He's very hardy. He seems to run hard all the way to the line, as far as I can see. He can sometimes hit a bit of a flat spot, I've noticed in his race, but I don't think that's a bad thing in the Albert Bartlett. I'd rather be sort of niggling along and off the bridle at the top of the hill. That's the kind of horse that wins this. If you're still on the bridle, it's not. At the bottom of the hill, it sometimes it doesn't really tell a tale. You just need. I remember when Harry won. He was flat to the boards coming down to the second last. I think that probably like Fakira. He's that kind of horse. So I quite like his chances, but I'm normally like getting stuck into this race because there's always one obvious standout candidate. I do think Barbados Books is the best of the UK horses, although I do think, Paul Nicholls has got another interesting run as well in the shape of 3 under through 5, who is actually top of the speed figures I keep, courtesy of his victory over a subsequent winner at Musselburgh. I think he's quite hardy. And Barbados Books, he looks an absolute copper bottom stayer as well. I do quite like him. He hasn't run a figure like off the scale yet, but I think there's more to come from him. Not sure what his future lies, whether it'll be hurdles or fences, but he's a very nice type. So I've got 2 or 3 on my short list. The 2 Nicholls is, albeit he's yet to win the race, and Fakira. Those have been my 3 I'm looking at this very moment in time.
Interesting that you are, quite sweet on Fakira, because even though Statler the favourite with most of the bookies, Barry, when you look at the Betfair exchange, Fakira not far off going favourite for the race.
Yeah, well, it's Statler's your favourite on the sports book, where it's 4 places. The each way punters at 5-1 for Kira 6, 13-2 Barbados Books, Topograph 8. On the exchange, Statler favourite just ahead of Fakira, 7.4 and 7.8. Quite an illiquid market again, only 50 grand matched. Barbados Books in there at 8.8. It's not a race of a very strong opinion on, but I did like Tom Lacey's horse Adramel when he won the Leamington last day. Thought he looked really, really tough, and he's the sort of horse that could run well at a big enough price. He's 16 and 20-1. Thought he could run well at a big price into a place, but I'll be waiting until near the time to play.
Tony?
It sounds like I'm copying Andy's homework here, but I promise you I'm not. I mean, I have backed 2 in the race. I backed Fakira at 10 and 12s after his run last time, and Barbados Bucks is my long-term play. I watched that race at Kempton, and I was asleep on the job a bit there, because immediately after that Kempton race, unbelievably, he was 50s and 40s for this race. But when I come round, it was 20s on Sunday morning, so I thought that 20s can't last either. So I did a piece on Bet.Betfair the day after and tipped him up at 20s. So I'm very happy with that. Happy with that now. They're both a bit shorter now, so again, it's not something that's of massive use. I wouldn't be rushing in at 8s and 7s on Fakira now. But those are the 2 that interest me, and if we get 5 places on the day and they drift a little bit, I may well go in again. But those are the 2 that interest me. But it could be a very deep race, couldn't it? And as the betting suggests. But Fakira and Barbados Bucks for me, those are the 2 I've backed so far.
Andy, before we move on to the Gold Cup, I just want to come back to you because, as we know, you do have a good record in these races. With the Supreme and the Ballymore, even though you're looking at horses who haven't had many races under their belt, you're probably looking for a bit of a different type. Do you think picking the winner of the Albert Bartlett is the most difficult of the 3 to pick because of the stamina test?
Yeah, because a lot of them are running the kind of races that don't sometimes generate fantastic times. Fakira's run solidly in good number races, but I don't think we've got to the bottom of him. It's all about potential in the Albert Bartlett. A lot of the other races have nailed their colour to the mast. They've won grade 1s like Bob Ollinger and Galliot de Mesnil. Appreciate it. They've had to run hard at grade 1 level to get there already. So they sort of like force their way towards the top because organically that's the way it goes. But with the Albert Bartlett, there's very different form lines all intertwined. Some win novices hurdles, some win races up the north like 500 through 5. Barbados Book wins a small race at Kempton. So like I say, it's a totally different dynamic, the Albert Bartlett. I think what you need to use is your eyes and watch the videos back and look at the horses that hit the line strong over those trips. Barbados Books hit the line hard at Kempton. Alaphilippe, the horse of Fergal O'Brien's, hit the line hard at Haydock. Every time Fakira's run, he's always finished his race off strong. He's always come home as if he wants a little bit further test. So, yeah, like I say, a lot of it. This is down to a little bit of your intuition and a gut feeling for what horse you need, rather than they're already there on a plate for you, as it were.
And what makes it tricky, obviously, a lot of these are running over 3 miles for the first time as well. So it's not like you establish 2 mile, 2 mile 4 horses where you know what they can do over the trip. So you just have to build in the potential angle, a fair bit, which always makes things tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. Shouldn't be the case in the next race, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, where I think everything you need is out on a plate for you, unlike the Albert Bartlett. And looking at the market now, we've got Album Photo going for the hat trick and head to the market at 5-2. Champ is 5-1. A Plus Tard 6-1. Last year's runner-up Santini 14-1, alongside Manila Indo and Kemboy. Frodon as well, 14-1 for Betfair ambassador Paul Nicholls. Royal Pagal still 14-1, although may not be running here, as we discussed on the earlier podcast. Native River, former winner of this race, and shown some pretty good form. I think it's a sign of the strength of the race this year that Native River is available at 16-1. Lost in Translation 33-1, ahead of Imperial Aura and Melon. Barry, you mentioned that there wasn't much liquidity in the Albert Bartlett market. That is not the case with the Gold Cup, as it stands at the moment. So how does it differ in terms of the action up on the Betfair exchange?
Yeah, obviously this is a liquid market. £336,000 matched in it so far. Album Photo, your favourite at 3.8, 6.4. Champ 7. A Plus Tard, his stable companion Manila Indo 14.5, along with Santini. Frodon in there at 16. Royal Pagai, like you say, 16 on the exchange. Obviously, that's all in. The horse I like is Manila Indo. I just can't get away from this horse. Backed him last year in the RSA when he got blindsided by Champ. His first run back this year was impressive when he beat Milan Native 25 lengths in Wexford, followed up in a decent grade 3 or grade 2 in Navan. Then he fell behind A Plus Tard in Leopardstown. Now, he was a 5-2 favourite that day, and A Plus Tard was 15-2. So it showed you what the stable thought about them there. His run back in Leopardstown then, when he was fourth, only beaten a little over 6 lengths behind Kemboy, wasn't a bad run, considering the first thing they wanted to do was make sure he got around okay and just give him a bit of confidence. It wasn't about winning that race at all. Not ideal preparation again for a Gold Cup, but he's a backable price now for me. He's a 14-1 chance. And like I say, he's a horse that I've followed throughout his career very closely from the Albert Bartlett days. And I think he's a bit of value now in the market.
Manila Indo there for Barry. Andy, who is the one for you for the Gold Cup at this stage?
Well, of the 4 horses I tipped directly after last year's Cheltenham Festival, when I did a little bit of work, if you remember, in lockdown, when I looked at the big championship races straight in the aftermath after Cheltenham, I'm happy with the other 3, Cider Burley, Put the Kettle On, and Abracadabras, but it's a bit of a disaster when it comes to Manila Indo. I was so disappointed with this fella last time. I think that fall knocked his confidence. I know what Barry's saying, they were trying to get him round and what have you, but he was so hesitant. He was just unsure of himself. He didn't really know where he was coming and going. Every time Rachel saw a straw, the horse put down, he kept jumping out to his right. He was, like I say, he was looking after himself as if that fall had completely shattered his confidence. I'll certainly take on board that he comes alive at Cheltenham. Look, he's won an Albert Bartlett and he was unlucky second in last year's RSA. And I've backed the horse to win the Gold Cup, so I should be looking at this through rose-tinted glasses. But I've got to look at it objectively now and look at what he's done. And then if you go back and look at that race beyond Kemboy in isolation and just do like the circuit to circuit comparisons with Monkfish, what I've done is I've run Kemboy onto the very first fence when Monkfish jumped the first fence in that flow gas. And if you then jump in the Kemboy race and you set the video going for 2.5 miles, the difference that Monkfish beat Kemboy and Manila Indo was half the length of the running. It was absolutely frightening. It just shows you how good Monkfish is, and it just shows you how.
Is that an accurate comparison, though, Andy? Is it like one's over 3, a little over 3 miles?
Yeah, but
the other's
Yeah, but they've only run 2 furlongs up to that point. The Flowgas is 2 mile 5.5, and the other race was 3 miles. So they've only jogged for the first. They've jumped 2 fences basically. So it's a very, very good comparison. I've got another comparison as well with Galliard de Mesnil compared to Flooring Port as well, which I'll touch upon when I'm doing the Ballymore. But one of my points I'm making is it just shows you how good and the potential, how good Monkfish and the likes of Envoyalon are when they take on this crop of Gold Cup horses at the moment. I can't have him. I can't have him in Ellerinde. I'll be absolutely staggered if he won, even though, like I say, I've backed him and put him up. But I am a big fan of Henry Romed's other horse, a Plutard. I think if Henry does win it, I think it's going to be with this chap. He only literally got going in the back end of what was a brutally run Savills chase. That was the best chase run either side of the Irish Sea as far as I can see. The number was good. Ken Boy was out on his feet in the running, but Plutard was just literally taking off. If you go back and watch his run as well in last year's Ryanair, he was just getting done for toe by Min and St Calvert and stuff 2.5. But boy, did he try up the hill. He never stopped running. If you actually look at it again, he's coming back at the other 2. I think he's been a 3-miler in waiting, and Henry was taking a while to cotton onto it. He's a festival horse. He won the Close Brothers, 3rd in the Ryanair. He wore a tongue tie last time out, which obviously helped him. He's had a great preparation, just 2 runs, perfect. Going to come here a fresh horse. Haven't run since December. Yeah, I'm very much warming to a Plutard's chances here. He's still 6-1. He's a festival performer. He's never been out the first 2 in his life. He's never fallen. So he's got a hell of a lot going for him, and he'll get the strong pace which he wants. You know, Native River, we know he's going to go from the front, plus others. So Frodon as well. So, yeah, a Plutard for me.
A Plutard at 6-1 for Andy. We've spoken to both Barry and Andy, and neither have mentioned the top 2 in the market. Tony, no pressure on you to do so, but where are you looking for your analysis? Well,
it wouldn't be Albu Photo. We all know his profile, but 3.85. I mean, that race last year, he only beat Santini ahead, and you know that last year's Gold Cup is just something and nothing, isn't it? Really, I couldn't be having him at 3.85. It's a testament to people's faith that he's actually trading that short. I think the ship has sailed as regards Champ's price. I think everyone, including jockey and connections, were overjoyed as much as surprised by that run over 2 miles last time. But is there an overreaction in the market? Champ trading at 6.2? I would say yeah. Plutard, I can fully see the case for that. He's the most solid at the top 3 in the market. But I backed Native River at 16s each way. I'm worried about the ground, obviously. But you know, this is a former Gold Cup winner as well. His performance at Sandown last time is probably the best piece of chase form, staying chase form this season. I know people might pick holes in it, but beating Bristol, Demai and Santini as he did in the rescheduled Cotswolds chase at Sandown last time was probably as close to a career best as you're going to get. Now, clearly the ground's an issue. You know, he's not going to be taken. He's going to be taken on for the lead by the likes of Frodon, etc. But after what I saw at Sandown and looking at this field, I'm not scared by many. And he's 16-1. And see if you can get 4 or 5 places on the day, then definitely. But at the moment, he's the one I backed, and I think he's 16-1 price is just bang wrong after what we saw at Sandown last time.
16-1 there for Native River. And Tony, you mentioned Frodon there, who will be running in the Gold Cup, and I caught up with trainer Paul Nicholls, Betfair ambassador and trainer Paul Nicholls, to discuss Frodon's chances ahead of the well-child Cheltenham Gold Cup. Frodon looks to be your Gold Cup horse for next week. An incredible win back on Boxing Day when we last saw him in the King George. I mean, we obviously know that Frodon's a horse who has a special place in your heart and you think a lot of. Were you surprised by the manner of that victory on Boxing Day?
Yeah, it did surprise us all in the King George, to be honest with you. I know we've got a fairly soft lead in front, but he still kept galloping all the way to the line, dictated things quick enough well in the straight and stayed on strong. And horses that win King George's have a habit of running well in a Gold Cup. The dry and forecast next week is a massive plus for him as well, so that's good. I'm very happy with his preparation, the way he is at the moment, and yeah, he's an exciting horse to have in the race.
I mean, everybody remembers the interview with Bryony Frost after the Ryanair win. I mean, how big a part has she played? You know, and what a partnership those two are. How big a part has she played in Frodon's story so far?
Yeah, well, she gets on well with him. Obviously, that goes without saying. Won a Ryanair on him, won all those races. They get on particularly well. Don't know for why, really, but they do get on really well, and it's a great partnership which you wouldn't want to break up, really. So, you know, the pair of them have won well at Cheltenham. That's a great plus in the Gold Cup. It's a massive advantage if you've got a horse that acts on the track. You know, if you've got horses, I've run a couple of late Sylvaner, Conti, and Flanders Abode, just hate the track, just don't operate on it at all. Whereas Frodon loves it. So that's a big plus. That's a big advantage.
And we released that full interview with Paul Nicholls on our YouTube channel and podcast platforms. We spoke to him about Frodon, as you just heard, but also touched on Politolog, Brave Man's Game, Next Destination, Hooghry, and many others as well. So do subscribe to our YouTube channel and any podcast platforms. You can find the Oddschecker podcast for our chat with Betfair ambassador Paul Nicholls. And Andy, let's talk about Frodon for a second, because we've mentioned most of the runners here. But as we heard Paul say there, I mean, Frodon, I think, surprised everybody with the manner of his win in the King George, back on Boxing Day. He mentions as well that he's had King George winners, as we know in the past, who haven't done it at Cheltenham, but Frodon has festival form and Cheltenham form and has stepped up in trip, pretty seamlessly, which seemed to be the doubt. Is there a danger that the King George winner is being overlooked here?
It's surely not to say good things about a horse like Frodon, who on his day just gives us National Hunt fans so much pleasure, doesn't he? You know, some of his performances with the Bryony Frost narrative have been, genuinely, moving moments. I was privileged there to be there a couple of years ago when Frodon won for Bryony, and there was another narrative on the day as well. It was just one of those fantastic. I think it was Paisley Park, wasn't it? Won the stays. It was just an amazing, emotionally tinged day, and Frodon was part of that with Bryony Frost. So, she'll have her own little agenda how to ride the race. Who's going to make the running? Will it be Native River? Sometimes he can be slowly away. Native River took him a while to warm into the task in the Gold Cup when he was beaten. You could just see him popping away, getting into a good rhythm and enjoying himself. Look, he'll give you a great sprint for a long way. Whether he'll see out the 3-2 against genuine high-class stayers, he's open to question. But he's going there in the peak of his powers. And we know Nicholls is an absolute genius. He'll get him absolutely up, bang on, as he always does. So look, if you fancy Frodon, I'm not going to say he can't win, because he's as good as anyone on his day. I just think he might just be put out of his comfort zone with the Native River in the race.
We should mention, before we move on, Royal Pagaille. The exchange move at the time of recording suggests that it could well be each or two again about what race he goes for, and he just brings a relatively unknown quantity to the race, isn't he? And certainly a fresh approach to it. Rated 166 now after that Haydock win last time, and this horse has just taken off. So he would be the one, a similar price to Native River, that I would be considering if they do go here, because like I said, he brings a different level of form to the table, and I quite like it.
So if you were to get the nod today that Royal Pagaille will be going here, you'd be happy to take the kind of 16th one on offer?
Obviously with the non-runner money back proviso, because a lot of you suspect the ground is going to be key to where that horse goes. They might want to play safe and go down the 3-mile 6 route, but he wouldn't be out of place here in the Gold Cup for me, because, like I said, it's not many in the race I fancy. Not many at all.
Be another great story for Venetia Williams if Royal Pagaille were to turn up at the Gold Cup and win here for the Ritchie family. On then to the Fox Hunters, and we have at the top of the market is Billaway, who's 3-1. Bob & Co is 5-1. It came to pass 10-1. Staker Wallace 11-1, Red Indian 12-1, Stand Up and Fight 16s 20-1 bar. Andy, come to you first here. Any view for the Hunter Chase?
Funny enough, I've been watching the Hunter Chases with a little bit more scrutiny, if you like, this season. Not necessarily the views having a bet in the Fox Hunters, but some of them have been doing some really good numbers. I must admit, they've taken me by surprise. I'm thinking, God, that must be quite good. Billaway, for instance, 21 last time out, clocked a very good time. I just think he's probably more ground reliant in this race than most, because I think he's a real grinder, and he got done last year. He's jumping and wasn't overly convincing when he got beat by It Came to Pass, who obviously won at a big price. If it was genuinely soft, I think he'd be a massive player. Bob and Co. clocked a very fast time when he won at Haydock the other day. I must admit that he clocked the kind of number that you'd expect of almost like a Gold Cup horse. That was an astonishing run, that was. And there's another one as well, a nice young horse coming through the ranks called Shamaron. Again, I got that doing a fantastic time at Leicester the other day. He was sent off odds on favourite. Didn't really think much of the race on the day at the time. It was a modest card, but he also threw his cap in the ring with a good number. You know, you took in the likes of a few that have been here before, Road to Rome, Stalker Wallace, who ties in quite nicely with the favourite. I'm not sure Kay de Burley will come here. You've got Hazel Hill, of course, who won the race a couple of years ago. This is actually quite a really good Fox Hunters. So yeah, I mean, Bob and Co. I think he's probably the one. He's the numbers horse this season. I think he was muted to going at the race last year, and they didn't get in there. I mean, I think Tony might know, because he's up to speed with the Nichols camp. I think he was there, hunter chase horse, but he didn't make it. So yeah, he'd be the one. But yeah, it's a good race, or better race than normal this season. And obviously it's in the play spot as well. So I'm going to be, you know, the play spot on Cheltenham Gold Cup Day always plays a lot. So you need to pay attention to this race if you're sticking 3 or 4 horses in there. You don't want to go out in a race like this not done your homework. No,
especially if you're still in by the time you get here. You want to have done your work beforehand. Tony, Andy said you might have a couple of bits to add on Bob and Co.
No, I'd rather wear a wig in public than have a bet in this race. No, I don't even look at the race. I don't even look at the race. And it's not called the Fox Hunters anymore, is it? Tut, lads.
Hunter's Chase.
They've taken the fox out. It offends people, apparently.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. Very, very sorry.
The actual act of fox hunting doesn't probably abhor people, but the name apparently does. But yeah, it's a strange old world.
Apologies to anybody offended. It is, of course, the Hunter's Chase that we are talking about here. Probably the best insight that we could have had in the race from Tony there, but thank you for correcting me. Barry?
I had to add something because I had nothing to add about the race. It's not.
I have a bit of insight. Shamaron that Andy's alluded to. It's part owned by Paul Nichols.
Interesting.
Right, yes, and John Bolton own it, yeah. And they think that could run a big race. It's not. I have no opinion in this race. Bill away 4.2, 7 Bob and Co. It Came to Pass 9. Since Victoria Pendle gave up riding, I've just this race is dead to me.
Fair enough. Well, Shamaron, I mean, I think a bit of inside information in terms of the owner fancying it, especially when the owner is Paul Nichols, is interesting enough to get a mention there. Shamaron 16-1, and given that Andy had already clocked a decent speed figure, I think I know where my £1 each way will be going come Friday afternoon when I'm licking my wounds after whatever's happened in the Gold Cup. On then to the new race, the Mares' Chase, and LMA is the 7-4 favourite. Everywhere I turn, I seem to see some shrewdy telling people to be backing this favourite, LMA. Colreevy's 4-1, Shattered Love 15-2. Annie Mac 8-1, 16-1 bar. Come to you first here, Barry. I'm assuming it's a new race. I can't imagine there's been too much action on the exchanges, but how do you see it going?
No, only 34,000 matched in this. Ellie May's your favourite though at 272. Colreevy 5. I think she's entered in Ireland this weekend. 8.4 Shattered Love. Annie Mac 9.6. And it's 19 bar. Ellie May, yeah, she's the one that kind of holds the key to the race. She has been as short as 2.52, and she has been matched as high as around the 18 mark. Wow. I don't know. I'm just not mad about her. She's not one for me. The race that she won last day, she's probably entitled to do that because Shattered Love needed the run. And I haven't got a strong opinion in the race, but if I was doing anything, I'd probably take her on. But again, it'd be nearer the time.
Tony?
Yeah, I've I've backed Shattered Love for quite a while now. She's come into 6, 7, and 8 to 1. I still think she's a good each way bet. I know she was well put in her place by Ellie May in the Opera Hat last time, where beating 5.5 lengths and getting £5 that day. So Ellie May is clearly the form horse coming into this race. But Shattered Love was going into that race on the back of a decent break. Was due to run at January, but was pulled out lame there. And I just think you just look at this horse's Cheltenham pedigree. Obviously won the JLT by 7 lengths in 2018, put up a decent performance when winning earlier in the season. They've clearly just targeted this race, and I just thought she was a decent each way proposition. After that defeat at Naas last time, some bookmakers knocked her out to 25s and 16s. Now, I couldn't get hold of the 25s, but I managed to get some of the 16s each way, and I backed her all the way down since. I think I don't see much depth in this race at all, and I think she's a knocking each way bet. The Colreevy's interesting because everyone's assuming she might go to Limerick this weekend, but the fact that she's been nibbled at on the exchange suggests that they may well come here, which is surprising because she does look though she needs plenty of dig, and if the forecast is wrong and they get plenty of rain, maybe she will turn up here. But I'd be very much in the Shattered Love camp each way, but I do respect the favourite Ellie May. But I know some people have got the bigger prices, but 7 to 4, I'd rather play Shattered Love each way, 7/8 each way than the Ellie May win only 7 to 4.
Shattered Love 15 to 2, best price on the grids at the moment. Andy, any big view here?
Yeah, I must. I'm definitely getting slower in my old age because again, it's another one I've missed out on here. Ellie May. I did all the sort of work the day after Ellie May finished second to Allaho, and you had your like-for-like comparison with Colreevy. So I knew that race was a better race than Colreevy. I thought, well, this Ellie May, if Colreevy's favourite, how can Ellie May be a much bigger price? And I didn't really twig. I wasn't really quick enough on the blocks. I was thinking, oh yeah, I've got to have a bet in the mare's chase. And then it soon became apparent everybody else had done the same work as what I had. The price just kept tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. As if somebody was looking at my desk and looking at the figures that I've written down. I think she was sort of 6, 7 to 1 at the time, and I thought, well. But I mean, I wish I was on at 6 or 7 to 1 now. She's a 7 to 4 shot. The only reservation I'd have about her, just as a horse to look at, she's not very big. She doesn't look a prepossessing type like a lot of, you compare it to Shattered Love. Shattered Love will be a hand or two higher than her. But she is a good operator. She gets herself over the fences really well. So yeah, I think she's the right favourite. I wouldn't disagree with anyone who's backed her. I wouldn't backing out the price she is, by the way. If I was going to have a bet and she turned up here, I think Augusta Gold's an interesting runner. Switched from Mags Mullins now to Willie Mullins. I don't know if anyone spotted that, but this is a really, really tough mare. Always leaves it on the table, this girl. She's probably grade 3 level at best. Sorry, grade 2 level at best. But you never know. That might be good enough. Now she's moved to Willie Mullins, and you think there might be a bit of improvement because Willie's had her for 2 months. He might just be able to squeeze a little bit more out of the lemon there and get her up to sort of grade 2, grade 1 standard. But she's 20 to 1. I'm not looking at a horse that's sort of 6, 7 to 1 shot here. Can certainly see Tony's Shattered Love angle. I've heard somebody else, good judge, I know, has backed that as well because she's got course and distance and Cheltenham form. But yeah, Ellie May, right favourite. But Augusta Gold, yeah, I'd be mildly interested in her if she was to turn up and she was sort of 20 to 1 on the day.
Now you've told us all your festival secrets, Andy. I'll come round and take the camera out of that light that I stuck in there earlier on in the year. Thanks for the 7 to 1 Ellie May, by the way.
Yeah.
I zoomed in on your speed figures and took the cash.
I've seen Andy's speed figures sheet, and if you can make sense out of that, then you're a brighter man than I am. I can tell you the amount of work that goes into it. With Augusta Gold, you'd think maybe given the connections of Ellie May, the trainer and owner connections, you'd think the market could be quite indicative if an improvement is expected of Augusta Gold on the day. As you say, first run for Willie Mullins if she does turn up here at the Mare's Chase. We'll move on to the last race of the day before we go on to the Nap, Longshot and Lay of the day from each of our three panelists. And the last is the Martin Pipe Handicap Hurdle, where Gentleman de Me is the 13-2 favourite, although that's not with a non-run and no bet firm. So do make sure you check the odds checker grids before having your bets. Wide receiver is 8-1. Ganapati, who we've already discussed, is 8-1. The Shunter 12-1. Champagne Gold 14-1. Monte Cristo 14-1. I mean, there are loads in here at the moment. Loads are going to come out. It's just a case of trying to work out who goes where. By the time we get to Friday, this market will look very, very different indeed. Tony, are there any that you've either backed or you're keeping an eye on for the time?
I haven't. I think this is one race where I really do want to see the final decks and the makeup. I'm interested in Stratum's got a couple of entries. He's got one in here. Disappointing in the Coral Cup last time. They may well go there again. But if they do get decent ground, off a mark of 143, I think the UK handicapper has only given him an extra £1. On his flat form, that makes him look very well handicapped. And the key to him is the ground. Like I said, if it's decent ground, then I think he could go very, very well. He's rated 114 on the flat, second in the Lonsdale last in August. If he can translate that flat form to hurdles, and he hasn't so far, admittedly, then I think he could be a player. But yeah, if they get good to soft ground, wherever he goes, and if he's 20-1 plus, which he is at the moment for both races, then Stratum's definitely on my hit list. Stratum
for Tony. Barry?
Yeah, the 28th and final race will bring back the County Hurdle as the finale for me. This is a race I've never had an ounce of luck in it, and I wouldn't know where to start this time around. There's only $6 grand matched on the Betfair Exchange on this race, so another indication of the esteem it's held in by Betfair Exchange anti-post punters at the moment. Anyway, Gentleman to Me, your favourite at 6.8. The money in recent weeks has been for Column of Fire. He's a 10-1 chance now. Looks like he's rated 145. A host of horses off 145. That would be share top weight should they take their chance. But according to the market, he's the real live one in the last couple of days.
Column of Fire, the one who is attracting support and on the exchange at least. Andy?
We certainly know what Willie Mullins is about in this race, don't we? You've only got to go back and look at the history. Sir de Champ off 134, Don Polly off 143, Kalulta Vic off 135. How on earth did those Grade 1 horses get in here off such a low weight? And he looks like he's at it again with Gentleman to Me, 139, having just had the one run. I thought jumped brilliantly on his debut. I think it was debut for the odd, wasn't it, last time out in Avon? And he does look a serious talent going forward. Obviously, the odds represent the level of improvement that's expected there. Column of Fire will do really well to win off 11-10. I know he was unlucky in the race last year when he fell, but I mean, he wouldn't be for me. I think he'll struggle to give some of these young bucks that kind of weight. There is one. I don't think he'll get in, but there's a very, very interesting runner in this race. He's in the Coral Cup as well, right down the bottom. Horse used to be trained in Ireland, called Barn of Adorn. I think Barry will know this fella. Tom Mullins used to have him. He won I think he's at the Brown Lad Handicap at Naas early on the season. He beat Damalisk, who every man and father and mother worth their salt was trying to back that day. It looked as a bit of a handicap good thing and proved it next time out. And Barn of Adorn kicked him out of touch, but he's gone to David Bridgewater, so I see.
It's a strange one, yeah. It's having his first run for Bridgewater.
Which is a strange one, yeah. First run for David Bridgewater, hasn't run since. He's number 71 on the card, but you never know. With all the defections likely to come out, it's probably going to be a good 20 or 30 will come out because they just entered in other races. He'd be quite an interesting one there. So yeah, one obvious one and one not so quite obvious one there for me.
Barn of Adorn, the one to look out for, 25-1 across the board on the grids at the moment for the Martin Pipe, will be having its first run for David Bridgewater if he gets in. That brings us to an end of the Friday races. Just a bit of time now to recap and get the best bets and the long shot and the lay from our three guests. Barry, as ever, for the fourth and final time, what is your nap, your lay and your long shot?
My nap is Quilixios in the Triumph Hurdle. My long shot or each way bet, if he makes it to the County Hurdle, is Guard Your Dreams. And my lay, just by virtue of the price and that it's probably more competitive, is in the mare's Chase Ellie Mae.
Tony?
No lay. I don't see anything in there that I'll be laying myself, so please forgive me. The each way is Shattered Love. That's what I've been doing for a while. So, and I still think current price is more than acceptable. Even though it's not a real long shot, I do like, if he goes there, I do like the look of Eclair de Beaufoy in the county hurdle. I think the current 12 to 1 at the time of recording, with extra places, is very fair.
Andy?
My lay would be Tritonic at the prices. I think you've got two horses there in Zanahiyr and Calixios that have run faster and are proven, whereas he's not quite yet. I think he's gone to a slightly, there's been an overreaction to that Kempton wins, bit of recency bias there for me. So I'd probably lay him at the price. I agree with Barry. I think Calixios is real solid each way against him, definitely. And probably my best one on the day at the prices at the moment is in the Gold Cup with a Plutard. I think 6 to 1 for him. I haven't got any wild shots. I mean, Barn of Adorn would be one if I knew he was running at 25 to 1, but that might not be the case.
There we have it. That brings the Gold Cup Day preview and the Odds Checker Cheltenham Festival preview 2021, sponsored by Betfair, to a close. Thank you very much to Barry, to Tony, and to Andy. Do check out the Betfair Sportsbook and the Betfair Exchange for your betting activity over Cheltenham Festival. Do also download the Odds Checker app for the best prices, the best bookie offers, free bets, place terms, and everything else, including the tipsters, including Andy himself. His tips coming to the app every morning of the festival and throughout the year as well. Fingers crossed we've given you a couple of winners, or at least something to think about. Do enjoy the racing for the whole week, and please do gamble responsibly.